But nowadays, like I look at our generation and I see my kids, and they don't look at the Philippines like having to go back just for reunions. They look at it as a place to visit and taste life.
Explore,
yeah. Because, you look at the Philippines, the food there.
Right.
I mean, it's an archipelago of 7,000 islands.
Correct.
And,
beautiful beaches.
Everything fantastic. And, they got the most seafood, the most biodiversity in the ocean there.
Yeah.
So if you want to eat, where else are you going to go besides the Philippines?
Yeah. Hi, and welcome to Flavor Profiles, a podcast conversation about the Filipino-American experience through the lens of food. I'm your host, Karina. This week, I revisit Dr. Ray Mangune, owner and operator of Gerry's Grill Artesia. We chat about surviving the pandemic, Filipino pride in the woke era, and why Gerry's Grill might be considered an institution. Flavor Profiles is coming up next. Okay, hi everybody, it's Flavor Profiles. Oh my God, this season, we're calling it the post-pandy season.
Oh, wow, okay.
Post-pandy, we're finally out and about talking to people because we can, and we're very fortunate. So I am here with Dr. Ray, owner of Gerry's Grill. We interviewed you 4 years ago.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's been 4 years, Ray.
Wow,
Dr.
time flies. Thank you for having me.
I know. Dr. Ray Mangune is the owner of Gerry's Grill, the one here in Artesia.
Yes.
And me and Winston actually interviewed you 4 years ago. I mean, that's crazy to me. That was 4 years ago that we discussed things. So we will discuss what's happening 4 years later now. But I want to know how is everything at Gerry's Grill? How's everything with you and your family, first of all?
Oh, everything's good, thank you. In the post-pandemic era, or what seems to be the post and pre-second pandemic era, excuse me, we're doing well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Nobody, like, everybody's good. Everybody.
Yeah, direct families all been healthy.
Yeah.
We got vaccinations very early. We're all like in the first batch.
Waxed and relaxed.
Yeah. I don't know about relaxed.
You're not the waxed. We're the waxed.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I mean, that we're very fortunate to be in the United States to get that. We were discussing for a second there the Philippines, and you were there right before the pandemic hit, right? Or during.
Well, interestingly enough, we had gone for a 10-day trip last March. And then a couple of days before we were going to go back home, I was watching the news. Oh, everything's okay. There's 10 cases or so. And then,
right.
I get the call from my daughter, the text message that, oh, America's shutting down. You better come home now. And then a few hours later, we get the message in the Philippines that the Philippines is shutting down on the Sunday that we're leaving.
Yes.
So, luckily for us, I made a few phone calls, made sure that the flights were okay, that we were going to be able to get to the airport that day, because they shut down Manila in and out. But, fortunately, we made it back home as scheduled.
Yes.
We didn't have to go through the late minute booking where people were spending thousands of dollars to get out of the Philippines.
I know
it was
got
insane.
stuck in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
Like a lot of them for a long amount of time.
Yeah, our plane was supposed to be like half empty. And then
people were just paying. They're like
people
trying to get on.
And I can't really disclose the airline that I was on, but the ticket prices all of a sudden jumped to like $3,000 or $4,000 for a one-way ticket.
Like two airlines that I would assume you might be going on.
Yeah, and it was a nonstop flight. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, we know where you're at.
If you know what I'm saying.
But you got back in time, and you got back in time for what was to become this insane period in our lifetime.
Oh, it's hopefully what they were saying. It's a once in a century situation that happens. Last time was the Spanish flu in 1919.
Yes,
and then you go 101 years later, and we've got Corona. So yeah, it was insane. I come back and everything is shut down.
Including Gerry's Grill.
Gerry's Grill, yeah, we were shut down. That as soon as I come back home, I'm like, I got nothing to do. Dental. We canceled our patients here at the dental office, and then Gerry's was closed. So it was a stressful time.
Yeah, when you decided to shut down, was that an easy decision?
Well, what we did was obviously right in the beginning, we weren't sure what we were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And
like
so,
many.
Yes. And so we kind of weighed out what we could do as far as how we could serve food still, or transition into what was going to be a very long. We didn't think it was going to last this long, but was going to be a long closure for us. So we first checked with all the health departments and with all the regulations from the county of what we could do as far as selling food. So as soon as it was possible, we just did straight takeout, and then started to employ a heavy emphasis on takeout and delivery, and then just went from there.
Well, the great thing is you actually, I guess you believed it was happening. A lot of people were like, no, this is not going to happen. This is not what, and then it was like, no, this is happening.
Oh, interesting. I was looking at the news about Corona since I think December. And, my first thought was, okay, let's start saving up, and then try to just watch our expenses, because if it lasts more than a couple months, then we're in a boatload of trouble all around everywhere. So that's what we did, is we tried to just make sure that we were ready for a possible pandemic a few months in advance.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah. And
you saw the future, or at least you were like, it's something I need to be sort of paying attention to.
Absolutely, because as far as Gerry is concerned, that the restaurant business is very fickle. We've got a very, very thin margin as far as making money and losing a lot of money. So at that point, we had to kind of figure out where we were going to be able to cut costs, and talk to our landlords about rent and things like that.
You don't own that building yet, Mr.
Oh, I wish I did.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately, we had to talk about rent delays or things like that with our landlord, and we talked about to them immediately.
Did they understand? Did they think things were happening?
They did,
yeah,
but they were kind of on the side. Well, it's only going to last a couple of weeks, according to the orange guy.
Right. Yeah.
Pardon me.
Right
saying
then, it's like
guy.
you're like, okay, now we know it's going to last a really long time.
Yeah, I had a feeling it wasn't going to be quick. So.
Yes.
And then, so we were preparing on all fronts. Even here at the office, we were like, okay, we got to stock up on PPE. Luckily, we had a month's early supply.
Yeah.
And I hate to say this, I was
hoarding
yeah. Right in January.
All honest answers here on Flavor Profiles.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So yeah, we started tracking everything down we could, and just making sure that we were going to be able to have, PPE here and at the restaurant. We actually sent a lot of our stuff, a lot of our extra PPE down to the restaurant, just to make sure that anyone that was working, anyone that was serving, anyone that was in contact with anyone else was protecting themselves and anyone they were exposed to.
Right. I would think you didn't sound like you panicked, but I feel like everybody, and rightfully so, everybody is panicked. So when you knew everything had to stop and you couldn't even open, what went through your mind as in employees, the business, and how did you guys approach survival mode?
Well, the first thing that we did was, like I said earlier, was talk to our landlords.
Right.
And
they were somewhat agreeable, I would think.
They were okay with deferments on rent.
Delay that payment, sir.
Delay that payment until you can open back up.
Right.
And we'd saved up quite a bit of money to actually cover that portion of it. So, we were like, okay, we're good for 3-4 months. And then, when the restaurant's closed, you don't really have a lot of other expenses except for
that's true
for salaried employees and insurances and things like that.
So how was that? How are the employees taking all of this?
Well, our salaried employees, we kept them on. Mm-hmm. Our management staff and all the key employees, we kept them on just to make sure they were okay.
Right.
And then a lot of the employees are part-timers.
Correct.
We couldn't afford to keep them on until we had the PPP money come in.
Okay.
And then once that
so you were one of these people that got the PPP.
Yes, we were.
Money.
Fortunately, we were lucky enough to get a PPP amount.
Okay.
And bring back our employees.
Okay.
Now the hard part about all that was when the PPP money came in, unemployment kicked in too.
Yeah.
So we had a lot of employees that didn't want to come back. Because of the employment money, which was much more than they were making as a part-time restaurant employee.
Yeah, I mean, I guess in that immediate time, if I'm them, I'm also thinking, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to take this and like figure out other things also, right?
Yeah.
They're in survival mode as well.
Absolutely. And,
Yeah.
you know, for us, it was more like, yeah, get yours. While the
Yeah.
government's taking care of you guys, do it. Because I don't know if they'll ever do it again
That's right.
to this extent.
I mean, that's just the reality, because there are people that are like, well, you know, it's like, I mean, everybody has their situation to figure out
Yes.
whatever way they needed to do it. So thankfully, it's funny, 4 years ago when we spoke, I don't think this Gerry's location had been open quite 10 years yet. It might have been like 8.
Yeah.
And so now 4 years, so you're over a decade old. I don't want to say old. Your birthdays, you guys have been around for a while. And now that the pandemic is, I don't say it's over, but everything's lifting and people kind of have a better handle on what we need to do and not do. And you started to open up. I know you're very popular. And do you feel like you guys survived also? Because are you guys an institution now? You feel like you're one of them?
I'd love to be an institution.
Right?
You know.
I mean, a decade long. And last time we talked, we mentioned the old school institution restaurants like a Max's.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like when I talk to people, they usually, if they're referring to like good Filipino food, like the Philippines, just well done, consistent, they always mention Gerry's.
Oh, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
love
So to
hearing
me,
that.
it is an institution.
Well, thank you.
Do you consider it to be?
Well, if we're gonna go with definitions of a 10-year restaurant,
Yeah,
sure,
right.
why not? Why not?
Well, I mean, what's an institution? What would it be for restaurants? A legacy restaurant? What would it be? It would be time.
Well, about 10 years ago, I would say 10 years would make us an institution, so I'll have to agree with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There you go. So I mean, I'm just, everybody, y'all know, you guys know, when you need to bring your grandma, your mom, and your kids, the whole generation to somewhere that's inviting and the food's going to be good. It's a good time, good vibe, good hospitality. Most people mention Gerry's to me, at least in SoCal. Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me know that.
No, that's not like, you know, it's completely, absolutely true. Like
that's-
it's like right now I have a friend of mine, because I was like, hey, I'm in your area. He's in not Long Beach, but he's near it. And I said, oh, what do you want? He goes, where do you want to go dinner? I go, most likely, maybe I'm going to go to Gerry's if I can, but I know it's crowded on the weekend, so today's a better day. He goes, wait for me. I want to go. And I go, okay. He goes, no, wait for me. I've been craving Gerry's. It is the place to go if you want Filipino food out here.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. So if we go back a little bit for the pandemic, right when that happened, also there was a cultural moment of like wokeness. I'll just put that in quotes because people kind of understand what I'm speaking about, especially with the George Floyd thing. And I think people are really getting into finding their voices and their identities. So as a, Filipino man running a Filipino restaurant, do you find that now, because you're open now, right? Mm-hmm. Do you find that people like are coming and they're more down with, they're like, they're all about their identity. They're pro Filipino. They're like, oh, I'm going to get Filipino food. This is where I'm at. Like, how do you feel about Filipino food and identity now, looking back on it, maybe even from the time you opened up the restaurant?
Oh, it's a huge difference from when we first opened up the restaurant.
Really?
Oh yeah. Back when we first opened it, was it 12 years ago? Mm-hmm. 12 years or so.
Oh yeah.
You could never tell your friends, "Hey, let's go try Filipino food."
Okay.
I mean, we could if it was, the cooking was at home and it was good. Then you could definitely be proud of the food that you're going to serve. Come on over.
Yeah.
But at the time, there weren't really a lot of sit-down restaurants that were really good.
What was up and running on 12 years ago? Do you remember any of them?
There was a couple restaurants that are already open. Salo Salo down the street was open already.
Salo Salo is another one. I have to say, people do mention Salo Salo a lot. Also,
yes, we were frequent customers over there.
Yeah, there you go. Collaboration and camaraderie. Good times.
Absolutely. There was also Max's in Glendale. There was one in Cerritos a while ago, but it closed.
Okay.
And
so from 12 years ago, and then you would tell, even when I review our talk about the opening of the restaurant, you even mentioned it's just the reason why you did it was your friends, you guys wanted a place to go that was familiar to you, like the Philippines, like when you go back home. And then even when you told your parents, they were like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
what's happening here?"
Typical Filipino parent reaction.
Right. And now we're 12 years into it, and like you said, like I don't know how it is. You're in the restaurant business every single day, seeing your customer base and people. So from 12 years ago to now, like, what's the vibe towards Filipino food?
Oh, I think it's just fantastic. 12 years ago, people weren't sure what Filipino food was.
Okay,
I mean, it was defined back then as pancit and lumpia or egg rolls. That was it.
Yeah,
that was
the things
extent.
everybody brought to the hospital party.
Yeah, if you weren't Filipino or married to a Filipino or Filipina, that's basically the extent of your knowledge as far as Filipino cuisine. And
correct.
You weren't gonna
balut from like a TV show, something where they made
something
it
was
awful.
scary.
Right.
When you're on Fear Factor, it's not really considered cuisine.
Yeah, exactly. Shade, exactly. Yeah, but I digress. So we'll get back. So yes, pancit and lumpia are always and adobo. I will say are the top three when somebody's like, oh, I've had Filipino food.
Yeah, and at that point, it was more like most of the Filipino restaurants were turo-turo or, towards the
fast casual.
Fast casual and, very much like Panda Express. And you'd never see someone of Chinese descent say, hey, let's go try Chinese food over at Panda.
Very true.
So,
Facts. Right.
Yeah, so it was more like if you were going to invite somebody to try Filipino food, it was either at your home or don't invite them at all.
Right.
And so,
or maybe there was a party.
Yeah, a party. Yeah, something like that. But nowadays, the acceptance and Filipino food is much higher. It's really featured by a lot of people, and people are noticing that a lot of the great chefs, a lot of them are Filipino, and a lot of the hottest names in food are Filipino. So I think it's opened up a lot in the last 10, 12 years, whereas it's really being accepted as a really, really excellent cuisine.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Time?
I think it's time. I think, what you mentioned earlier about Filipino pride. Filipinos in general never really were proud of a lot of things. It was more like, let's assimilate, let's acclimate to wherever we're at.
Right.
If you're in America, let's be Americans and kind of hide
America.
Right. America.
Right.
And you try to end up hiding your culture because you're trying so hard to assimilate.
Correct.
But now, with a lot of people in the woke era realizing that being Filipino is a great thing, and it's part of what we add to the melting pot of America, that let's start cooking too. Let's start serving our dishes.
Yeah, I think time, how they say time heals too. I think also time gives people like the space to start looking at things very differently, including what I mentioned before is like a cultural moment.
Absolutely.
And some people think, when they hear woke, it's definitely different for other people, and some people take it negatively. And to me, I think it's just like, it's just a fast way to say something that needs a little bit of explanation. Like, people are coming into their own identity and maybe realizing no matter what they were trying to do, it wasn't going to be beneficial to them. They needed to find their own voice, and it looks very different for everybody. So for Filipinos, I think time also generation wise, right? Because our generation, we're in the same peer group, and then our parents, and then now, kids, you have children. I think their generation, my mom and them, when they came here, probably like your parents, I'm not sure how and why they immigrated here, and when they got here, like you said, assimilation was about safety and survival. They're just like, nah, we're coming from somewhere else that probably maybe wasn't too great for them. Yeah. And then when they're here, they're also like, all right, we're going to do everything we can to stay alive. And then the benefits will go to our children who are us.
Yes.
And so then when we do it, it's like you're kind of stuck in between. Like, oh, we follow our parents and they're somewhat traditional conservative views. And when I say conservative, I mean small c, like don't get yourself killed. Don't get yourself hurt, right?
Don't put yourself in danger,
because even though you don't know much about the world yet, because we are young, people will not be that great to you. You don't know, right? So, and then now we have children that they were born here. So they feel American, right? They feel
Yes.
there's not a safety issue for them. They're not going to have to go back to a country, right? Because even some of us, I'm Canadian, but like my mom and them are from somewhere else. Some people had kids and then brought them over. So there's no safety issue in their mind. So they get to be very free.
Yes.
They have freedoms, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they get to be like, I'm going to be a chef. I'm going to be a YouTube star. Because when you ask these kids now what they want to be, a lot of them want to be entrepreneurs, whether they know what that even means or not. Opening a business, they want to be fame. Fame is a big one. So I think the food also is like a chef to them is not so out of the ordinary. And then also I think to them, Filipino food is what it is. They're not looking like, oh, I'm going to become a French chef, which for you and me and maybe our parents, that was what was pitched to us as like if you're going to go into food, it needs to be Eurocentric or a different Asian, right? Like Japanese, right? Mostly, maybe Chinese, but that was considered fancy Asian, right?
Yeah,
and then you're like Filipino. Well, what about Filipino food? It's like, oh, nobody's going to buy that. Nobody's going to do that. And you're like, but I eat Filipino food, okay. So I say that because now I see I think the younger generation, I don't even know if they're even pushing it consciously. They're just like not accepting that they need to do and be anything else but Filipino they are.
I think it's fascinating when we see younger generations and, all the new chefs and everything is that they're really embracing Filipino food,
right?
And they're really bringing it out, and they're not looking at it as as a lower cuisine or like a different cuisine,
correct?
But as a cuisine that needs to be amplified in where its stature is in food in general.
Yes,
yeah, it's amazing, and I see we talked about generations like. Our parents, they come here, they go back to the Philippines every 15, 20 years back then, because the only reason they went home is because they haven't been back in so long.
Or a funeral,
so wedding, maybe
crazy, right?
Yeah.
And also because it's expensive for them. Yeah.
It's also the cost of living where you double the expense of what you have, right?
Right.
But nowadays, I look at our generation and I see my kids, and they don't look at the Philippines like having to go back just for reunions. They look at it as a place to visit. And taste life.
Explore,
yeah. Because, you look at the Philippines and the food there.
Right.
I mean, it's an archipelago of 7,000 islands.
Correct.
And,
beautiful. Beaches.
Everything fantastic. And, they got the most seafood, the most biodiversity in the ocean there.
Yeah.
So if you want to eat, where else are you going to go besides the Philippines? I mean,
if you know it, right? Yeah. I think also the way that the Philippines is portrayed in the United States, like many other developing nations, I put that in quotes. I mean, it's beneficial to the United States maybe not to give props to the Philippines sometimes, right? Because, the employment of the Philippines, there's a whole political government thing going on with the Philippines and the United States that, it's not, the Philippines is never going to be on the big tourism. You're not going to find that in Condé Nast, okay, all the time.
Well.
Once in a while because of the beaches.
Yeah.
But there, what I noticed, it's not this place that it's always pushed to tourism, right? I mean, it's still, hopefully it's going to get better. And I know other like Australia definitely pushes the Philippines. They're the sister, I think they're sort of very friendly with each other, right?
Yeah.
So you'll see it even Canada, it's go to other places, but the United States definitely has their favorites.
Yes.
Right?
I think that comes from generations of imperialism. Don't want to sound too political.
No, it's true. Completely true. Yeah,
back in World War II, when the Philippines and all the soldiers in the Philippines were referred to as our little brown brothers.
Yes.
Kind of just put that stigma on the nation as far as it's just a country where they just grow rice and send us nurses. That's it. And I think the U.S. might be kind of scared that if the economy gets too good in the Philippines, we won't be having more nurses down here.
100%. Yes, no, that's absolutely, because I think that's all the time. I think, if we're really going to look at why a lot of it is Filipinos provide the labor around the world.
It's true.
Yeah. So why are we going to give them Pinoy pride, as in they can stay in their own country because their own country has everything they need, which the Philippines actually does. But that's not beneficial to people who need labor force around the
Yeah.
world. So I digress. Yes, we know what's up.
We're not just about food here.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, the flavor, the profile of a Filipino person, right? I mean, whether you're in the Philippines or coming over here, and is a lot. It's a lot, including food, but also why, like, you know. And as we talk about food, it is why the food didn't get to a certain place until now. We're talking 2021, especially even in California, Southern California at that, Northern California, you know, also a big Filipino population, Hawaii. I mean, but still, when you went, maybe 5 years ago, people were like, oh, Filipino food. Oh, where do I go? What do I do?
Yes.
And then now it's like, oh, no. Oh, I know where to take you. Gerry's Grill. But if you're in downtown LA, right, it's a little different. You got the Gen Z vibe. They all have their, you know, a lot of adobo bowls everywhere and whatever. And I ain't hating. It's never. I pick up bowls. I try to support everybody's thing, doing their thing, right? And they have a different. It's just great for me. Like, I'm like, oh my God, like, that's so great. Like, they really love it. Like, they are not apologizing for nothing.
I feel so proud when I see someone start up a Filipino restaurant and it becomes successful.
Yes.
And, you know, or when I'm watching a food show
and they're on there.
I see these Filipino chefs and
killing it.
And they're doing it.
Yes.
And they're doing it the way they know how. And you know, it just says, hey, you know, we're on the map, and you know, we're not going anywhere, and we're stamped already. So.
Yes, I had a Here's two conversations I had recently, which is funny. The first one was somebody had mentioned to me that, and he was a white guy, and he mentioned he lived in Chino or grew up in Chino, and then for some reason I mentioned I'm Filipina, and then he was like, oh wow, yeah, I never had Filipino food, and I thought, and you grew up in Chino, huh? Interesting, okay. And he was like, and he was so proud of, like, I'm from Chino, I know the city and all that, and I was thinking, okay, but yet, okay. And then, but the one thing he said to me was, oh, but, you know, have you ever taken down a balut? And I thought it was the most interesting, just low-key, rude thing to say, because in my mind, I know why you're asking about that, right? Because to you, it's negative. It's something you saw somewhere. It's whatever it is, because you're definitely not telling me like it's this great thing that you, but which, by the way, balut is fine. It's not my favorite thing, but like,
actually, I like balut.
Yeah, there's something wrong with it. Like, what do you think chicken is, people? Like, I mean, my God, right? So, but like, I knew when he said that, I thought, wow, and this is recently, and I was like, oh, we're still doing that, okay, you know. And it's the stigma of a fear factor. It's still there, those things where like your food is the extreme, right? And it's like, but it's not, because we have more population than you do, and everybody eats it. So it's not really extreme. It's actually pretty normal every day. But okay, I digress. Okay, you know, like, it's still a thing. It's still a thing. So anyways, and then I think I mentioned something like, oh, Chino has like those supermarket cravings. Like, there's a whole bunch of food stalls in there, and it's a whole market.
You know, just looking at like American palates, you know, over the last 200 years, it's not, I'm not trying to say too much bad about it, but
right.
It's not a very, well, how do you say?
Well, it's pedestrian.
It's very pedestrian.
Yes.
Like we're talking crosswalk every 2 minutes.
Yeah. Right.
But you know, the food, American cuisine is just, you know, after traveling a little bit around different places in the world.
Okay.
American cuisine is probably the tamest, the most not saying sophisticated.
Bland.
It's bland.
A little bit on the bland side.
It's basically,
depending on where you're going. For sure.
I mean, like,
right.
I love American food. I love burgers and pizza and
barbecue,
if pizza is considered American, and
right.
barbecue. But if you look at that food is anywhere you go, and it's just, you know, it's I don't know if it's popular because it's easy, and you know, American palates just like it's simple, but it's crazy. You go anywhere around the world. You just cross the border into Mexico, and the food is so much more sophisticated, so many more levels.
Yeah.
On your palate.
Flavor,
exactly.
Yes.
There's flavor, and I guess just after 200 plus years of of eating off the land and burgers and hot dogs. The palate hasn't grown as much as other countries have.
Well, that could also be a corporate capitalist issue as well, because once you get into food before a certain era of like the production of food in a factory versus when people did it on the land, right? Which is a lot of people are trying to get back to that now here, right? They're younger folks, not just Filipino, but everybody is like, oh, I want to be on a farm, and you're like, oh, do you? Okay, but corporation, where you're making Weber bread, and Weber bread's good. I like a Weber mayo, ham, whatever. I think that was also the difference, right? Because then it became like how much money can you make from the bread instead of how are you making the bread,
exactly,
right? So I think the palates we have all changed, and now we're in this time where people are just sort of really hunkering down, and they're like, my identity.
Myself, I've had that dream about just packing up the bags and opening up a farm, being self-sufficient, to a point where...
And then what stopped you? You're like, I have a dental thing to do.
I have to work and have to make a little bit of money at the same time.
Right.
So, just thinking about that, it's something that we all, I think, kind of think about when we look at our diets and we see what's going into our mouths and how it's getting there. And, growing up, I remember TV dinners was, weekly.
Normal.
Yeah, it was,
Sure.
and I
Top ramen
and
fast
Hungry
and
Man
convenient.
dinners and, throw it in the oven and TV trays. I was talking to my daughter a couple weeks ago, and we were watching some show from the 70s, and I was like, do you know what that is? And then she's like, it's like a mini table or something, Dad. I go, no, that's a TV tray, because you used to sit down, microwave your food, and just watch TV when you're eating dinner.
That's right.
So, and it's all processed, and 100%.
If I think about not Filipino food, but American food, I mean, I say that in quotes. I would think exactly what we just said: fast, casual, and cheap.
Yes.
So that's where it is. Okay. And I think there is a group now, like the millennials, the Gen Zs. I don't even know what the ones after that. Who knows? Whatever y'all are called.
Yeah, it'll start to go to Greek letters.
That like the environment, right? They're like all about like, oh, the ocean's dying, the air is choking us. And like, so they are very concentrated on not even that stuff. They're like, we want real food. We want water. We want to breathe. So I think they also are in they're woke because of the environment and their like literal environment they're in, but for a whole bunch of reasons, including food, including I don't want shitty stuff in my body. You guys do that. That's why y'all are look at us like, that's why you guys need healthcare. We can't even have healthcare, so we got to keep our bodies straight, right? No. As opposed to, I think our generation, right? We're not coming from the Philippines. We got here. So like you said, you're assimilating. So you're like, well, I'm eating this thing at home, but I'm also going to McDonald's or whatever. And McDonald's is okay in moderation.
Absolutely.
And maybe not even moderation, like a very rare occasion. But it wasn't for us. That was like, you wanted to be American. You're not eating Filipino food, or you're not telling people you are.
No, it's like back then when we were growing up, the big prize was McDonald's.
Yes, with the thing, the pack.
With that little Happy Meal thing.
Yes.
And then nowadays it's more like, I'm sorry, I have to bring you to McDonald's.
Yeah,
like we don't have time to cook real food for you.
I mean,
and sorry, we have to take you to McDonald's today.
Yeah,
and it's a rare thing that happens in our family. We try to. My wife tries to make sure that we have like good, wholesome, whole foods every day.
Yes.
But yeah, it's flipped. Whereas McDonald's seems more of a punishment now than a reward.
Well, it just seems like it's fast, which is what it was supposed to be. It was fast, and if you're in a pinch and you're on the road, or you guys don't have time, or a lot of the time, I remember going to McDonald's, Burger King to have parties, because it's the treat, and then you could bring everybody there. Not everybody had a house and a yard and everything, so you went there. So I what's crazy is about the generation now. I remember my stepdaughter at the time. She was going to like Earth Cafe and stuff. Like when she was high school, I was like, what was that?
I still haven't been there. I want to try it.
And I was like, what's going on? Okay. And like, ordered, like, I'm going to get like a turkey burger. And I'm like, oh, wow, we're really holy. So, and you think like, first of all, who's paying for this? You know what I mean? Second of all, okay, I guess. Like, and it is such a switch. I mean, it might also be California. Like, we're in a great state. I don't care what. Y'all who want to leave California, you can go. But the rest of us, I'm fine with California because we are the innovators. We are the people that push stuff. And we're very diverse. And we like it that way. And food-wise, I think California is also... We don't accept a lot of crap.
No, we don't. It's a lot
not,
different.
You know, it's the thing you look at and you go, yeah, that was a once in a while thing, but that's not how I'm going to eat every day, right?
Yeah,
there's a sort of almost like a shame, like when people are eating something, you're like, you're going to eat that? Like, okay.
Yeah.
Although there's like the Instagram life where everybody's posting all the other like crazy food they're eating, right? So Filipino food now, yes, there's a lot of Filipino food in media, I notice. A lot of television, a lot of print. They're doing a lot of, I say they, I think us as a nationality, ethnicity, although we're pretty popular now and popular in the media also because the cultural moment of Asian Americans in the news.
Yes.
Right? So I think people are more open to stuff. So going forward, what do you think is, I mean, Gerry's Grill to me is very traditional. Now, I'm not saying it means a lot of things, but it's traditional Filipino food, vibes, beer, you know, right?
Yeah.
We discussed last time, I think we discussed about how hard it would be to have real Filipino food be vegan.
Oh, yes.
Yes, because a lot of it is made with like fish sauces, shrimp sauces. So vegan, maybe vegetarian you could do.
To be completely vegan Filipino food, you know, it's probably one of the most difficult things to do in the cuisine. Just because, you know, just fish sauce, like you said.
Yeah, but like shrimp paste. I mean, that's the thing that gives the food the umami.
Yeah, all the flavors. There's no such thing as a vegetable broth in the Philippines. It's, you know, you're going to have a chicken or a pork based on the broth.
Well, you're saying that, although I do see a vegan Filipino restaurant be popping up here and there.
Oh, well, you know, more power to them.
So exactly. Yeah. I'm like, they must have cracked the code. I don't know. I have not been.
I know you might want to ask for an ingredient list on that.
Right.
To be truly vegan, I think there's a definite...
yeah, I think maybe vegetarian. But I do know I have seen one that is vegan in like probably Oakland. Now, is it still around? I have no idea. We'll see. But I've never tried it. But again, the younger generation, they're into... it's kind of twofold, right? Because they're into veganism, like they're into the environment, so they don't want to, you know, cows and eating meat, and it's bad for the environment.
Carbon footprint.
All the things, and then they're also into their culture. So they're like, but I'm Filipino, but I'm also vegetarian and vegan. What to do, right? So, and then somebody opens up a vegan spot, and you're like, it's interesting.
More power to them.
Yeah, right. I mean, no shade, you guys. If you guys are listening to this, we all love. It's probably delicious, but remember, you got to convince us too sometimes because I like steak. I like pork adobo. Like when there's adobo, I always pick the pork one. I know even our ingredients, our pantry. Speaking of our pantry, what was Filipino food pantry before? Was considered like coconut milk, okay, chicharron, all these things that like Filipinos eat that were demonized before happen to be all in Whole Foods now. Like, right? Like if you see it's like chicharron, it got a new packaging, it got a new PR person behind it.
Well,
now
it has no carbs, right?
Yeah.
So
it's part of a keto diet, right? Same with coconut milk. Like, I mean, it's so fattening. It's like, no, actually, that's the thing that's good for you, right? So I think we've also crossed over to whatever our mom, dad, our grandparents used to cook with. It's like almost, you know how like clothing goes in and out of style, comes back per generation. I think that's the thing now too, because I think about what's in my like ninang's pantry. I mean, maybe sugar is like the most detrimental, but even that you might need a little bit of. But everything else, if I go to Whole Foods, it's like $20, $30 more.
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy. Like you see see a lot of Filipino ingredients that have been in the pantries for generations.
Right.
And you couldn't.
Well, it's being gentrified, if we're going to be honest, right?
True,
That's what it is.
Because they're buying it cheap and they're selling it for a lot.
Because, and also, this is the thing. What I noticed, and also, this is the example I was going to say: the chicharrones, right? Even when I was younger, in my mind, it's always like balutan. It was always like food like that my uncles were eating, and they're with their beer and they're hanging out.
Yeah.
Then later on, and for me, it was like, I'm not going to eat that. That's fattening, And somebody pitched that to you, the idea of it's being fattening. Now, chicharrones, it's still at the Filipino store. You can still get it. But it just got a different packaging, and it's in Whole Foods, and it's become this thing that's keto and low, what is it? Carbohydrate. And so I to me, also Filipinos had done not a great job at getting behind their own food and ingredients, because once it all of a sudden got a white lens, right? The packaging's different. And then they also okay. Oh, well, I mean, it's fried in, non-pesticide, whatever the oil is and all that. It's like, I mean, at the end of the day, it's still a chicharron, guys,
I mean,
right?
I think that's just part of the Filipino assimilation, is where, before we weren't proud of our ingredients. We weren't proud of our homeland, because we wanted to be so American or so wherever we're at.
Yes.
And then now with the acceptance of, people are realizing, hey, be proud.
All of what I say to them, everything you see in Whole Foods was probably at Island Pacific or Seafood City also.
Oh yeah,
it was there already, and it was half the price.
Just put a 365 on there, and it's Whole Foods.
Yeah, right.
So
you just remember where the origin, where it came from. So ending our, I don't want to keep you here forever. So post pandy, we're out of the pandemic, sort of. Not going to say everybody, mask up, vax up, do all the things. How is Gerry's Grill going forward? Because you guys are still sitting outside.
Yes. So
how is what's going on there? What's the future plans and all of the things?
So, well, for right now, we're still outdoors. We've got plenty of seating.
I saw. My God.
So part of the deal with the landlord was hook us up with the parking lot and
Correct.
We'll make sure we'll pay our rent.
Right.
So that was a little bit of the trade right there.
Yeah.
And so, we welcomed back live entertainment last 2 Fridays ago, 3 Fridays ago.
I heard
popping. So it's popping again on Friday nights. It's hard to get a table Friday, so come early if you wanna sit with.
You guys were like that even before the pandemic, though.
Yes, we were.
So now it's like I think everybody's just walling out.
Yeah, we were dying.
I want to go.
Yeah, we were dying to get it started again, and with the regulations and all the changes, open, close, and whatnot.
Right.
We finally said, okay, I think this is going to be a time that we can open up and we can handle the amount of people out there and do it safely.
Okay.
Because it was more about, okay, let's not think about the bottom line for a few minutes, for a little bit, and just think about everyone's safety. So that's why we didn't go inside yet.
Okay. Not yet.
Not
so
yet.
You guys currently are still
We're
outside,
still outside,
and hopefully the inside will be sooner.
Exactly. And we're doing a little bit of renovation inside.
Okay.
A little bit of an update
Yeah.
for everybody. But we just wanted to make sure that before we go back inside completely, that hopefully the landlord lets us stay outside and the pandemic is over.
I feel like you guys are good tenants. You'll be okay.
So we want to make sure that, if there's any spread of corona, of the virus, that it's not because they came to our restaurant.
Right. Well, also at this point, I feel like if there is somebody, it's like, can you get vaccinated already? So this is not
God,
happening.
don't get me started on vaccinations.
It's like, God, how about this? Here's the question I didn't ask you was, what did the pandemic reveal for you? Not about like how, I guess about how tenacious and you guys are, but about the people who come to the restaurant.
Well, I think,
or in general in life, but speaking of Gerry's Grill, like what did it reveal to you about your customers, your peoples?
It showed us a lot, as far as customers are concerned. As soon as we opened up for sit down dining outside, we were back business as usual. It didn't take weeks for us to get back to the old swing of things. It was a matter of days before people found out that we were open for sit down.
Very good.
And we had to expand. At first, we had 2 tents outside, and we thought it was going to be plenty just to get through.
Right. Now it's like 20
corona.
tents.
Yeah. So yeah, we're up to like 4 full-size tents. They're 20 by 40. So
yes.
You imagine we've got 80 by, I don't know, 160.
Yeah. So the whole restaurant's literally outside.
The whole thing is outside.
Besides the kitchen being
kitchen
inside
is still
and cooking,
there.
and you guys are running food
in and out.
right?
The restrooms are still open inside, so
Okay.
there's no need to worry about sanitation or anything like that. But yeah, it's very heartwarming to know that people wanted to come back right away and enjoy the food.
When you guys were half shut down and you could do takeout, who was taking out food?
Oh, it was actually interesting that the people that were taking out food were.
And were you catering?
There wasn't any catering requests or anything like that because I guess there was no chance for people to have
like a
party or anything like that.
Unless it's small at their house.
Yeah, so it was all takeout, and we were doing little special deals for everybody. You spend a certain amount back then, and we'd throw you some free food. As a gift. Thanks for supporting us. And it was cool because what we ended up doing was expanding our clientele because people they had to eat out, they had to buy food,
right.
So let's try this, let's try that, and I think indirectly it helped us as far as who was trying our food.
Okay.
Not just our regulars, which we are so thankful for,
right.
But people trying out different cuisines and putting a light on it. Yeah, so it was good.
They're waking up their palates.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Well, when they were taking out food, this is the thing. A lot of restaurants don't want to return to sit down, because of the things you said at the beginning, right? There's overhead, insurance, all of the things that go into running a restaurant. So the takeout model, and I know a lot of restaurants actually switched over to like, oh, now we're, strictly fast casual. There will be no more indoor dining. I assume that is not your vibe. You guys are looking forward to getting back inside. And there is something... What do you think that is to the difference of even being outside versus inside,
Well, I think that, being outside, the inside and outside, they have different qualities to the environment. As far as being outside, you feel like you're more in Manila.
True. Especially when the weather's good.
Weather's good in California. We've got the lights on at night. We're under the tent. So it's
like
cool.
A good
It's a different vibe. Yeah, it's fantastic. And then
you feel like y'all are going to build out that outside parking lot, like we'll keep it and inside.
I would love that, but I don't think the city's going to allow us to hang out there that long.
You know what? The city has to rethink a lot of things now, right? What the rules are off the table.
All these parking regulations just kill us. But I mean, for us, it's like we definitely want to get back inside because that's the root of our restaurant is sit down dining.
Yes.
And so of course, there's a different vibe outside than inside, but we do miss being able to serve people in a family environment inside the house, not like a picnic, like it's outside.
Correct.
But back to like family style dining where everyone's sharing and talking and just having a good time.
I feel like that's what Gerry's Grill is. It's a very family friendly spot.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's what we want it to be. We want it to be a place where families and friends can just enjoy their meal in a way that, it's unencumbered. It's just relaxed and you just enjoy.
Yeah. It's a cozy, it's warm. Not warm even like the air. I mean, warm, like the vibe, the energy is
Absolutely.
warm.
Thank you.
So that's why I think people love it so much. So on that note, going forward, anything else we need to know? Or is there Gerry's Grill coming up? Down? Is there something else you're doing that we're not aware of, or are you just trying to get through now?
Right now, we're just trying to get past this whole pandemic thing, and then once it's done, which I do foresee eventually, it's going to be done. We just have a few setbacks here and there, like what's going on right now. But I think in the future we'll be able to sit down, take a look, a little retrospect on what we've been able to achieve and what we can do in the future. Okay,
sounds good. Everybody, make sure you end up at Gerry's Grill. Don't get it twisted. Y'all need to on the weekends. Don't try to go there without making. I don't even. Do you guys take reservations?
Actually, unfortunately, we don't take reservations on the weekends because, and this is. I hope you guys kind of understand. Filipinos aren't really great at being on time. So when we're holding a table for extra 15, 20,
Filipino
30
time.
minutes, and then you reserve for like 10 people and there's like 2 people there and everyone else late.
Yes.
I know that you guys want to sit down and you guys want to enjoy the dinner and everything, but we only have a certain amount of seats and we've got a line that's an hour long sometimes. So
guys,
we can't just hold the tables.
Dr. Ray is giving us successful restaurant people problems right here.
Oh yeah, it's a good problem to have. But then, when your friend calls you up and says, "Hey, I tried to go eat your restaurant last week, but there was an hour wait."
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. We have a business to run.
Yeah,
we have other people who are getting here on time to
exactly.
to hang out and enjoy the restaurant ambiance and vibes of Gerry's Grill. So if you guys think you're going to roll up there, especially when they have the live music popping and just not wait, I mean, you better get there at the beginning. Like, it's like Disneyland. Like, make sure you get there and be patient.
Be patient. That's number one. Be patient
and get ready and have a good time.
And timing is important too, because when the music starts, they don't get up as soon as
the table is not going to turn just because you want to sit down and you got there late. Yeah. So everybody, make sure you check out Gerry's Grill and follow, subscribe, do all the things. Follow them on Instagram. I believe you guys are on Instagram. I follow you.
Yes.
And hopefully everybody enjoys Filipino food and get your vaccinations and all the things. Thank you so much, Dr. Ray.
Oh, thank you so much, Karina. All right. Get waxed and waxed and relaxed like Karina says.
Peace and adobo grease. Bye-bye. This episode is brought to you by the team at Flavor Profiles. Follow us on Instagram and be sure to subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify and wherever you listen to music, audiobooks, and other podcasts. Make sure to write a review and tell your friends and family. Thanks for listening to this episode of Flavor Profiles. Peace and adobo grease.